The Last Journey. Chapter 10.
This is the USS Constitution of the United System Federation Navy, Captain David Stevens commanding.
What right have you to invade Krill space?
The voice demanded. I cite Section 23, Subsection 6, Paragraph 7 of the USF Krill Mutual Aid Treaty. I muttered, stuff that in your pipe and smoke it. Then a second voice came on.
Captain Stevens, please understand that now is not a convenient time for such a visit. Please vacate Krill space.
I bristled. I don't give a damn about your convenience. I demand the right to establish orbit for 3 days as per said treaty. A third voice said,
You may establish orbit, but we cannot allow you to teleport to the surface at this time.
Your own battlecruiser has established orbit close by. They can keep us under surveillance. The voice replied.
Then orbit for 3 days is permitted.
I heard over our hyperspace comm.
Thank you, friend David. I will need 2 days to execute my plan to eradicate those on Cunyan Island.
One day, I received a call from the Krill president.
Captain Stevens, your presence is disrupting our citizens. Please leave, or I will be forced to have you moved away by force. The treaty is hereby cancelled.
I responded, blow it out your blankety, blank. Your duly elected officials entered into the treaty. By the terms of the treaty, the correspondent must notify the other party 800 hours before cancellation. I'm staying for the full 3 days. I heard.
Then it's on your head. I will order an attack.
I ordered, red alert. Battle stations. I smiled at T-Sun, well, I guess we will be in the fray. Can't say I'm sorry. Tall, hyperspace to Sheila the news. As I looked around, I saw grim smiles on every face. Barbara turned.
We've beaten these jerks before.
Then she sang out.
And we can do it again.
I ordered, Jarl, Barbara, get into little boy and stay close. I heard.
Captain, we have completed the second starfighter. All we need is a crew to begin space trials.
I turned, and everyone on the bridge had their hand in the air. Number 1, choose your mate. Remember the size restrictions. She looked around.
Quinn, how tall are you?
She replied.
Sir, I'm 4'6".
T-Sun asked.
Think you can have the donkey in a starfighter?
Sally responded.
Yes, sir.
I ordered, okay, you two, go. Both ran out. I said, I'm sorry, but with size restrictions, they were the best option. I think I'll ask George to make a version to fit 6-footers. I ordered, tall, hyperspace comm to Sheila, please. She replied.
Yes. Friend David.
Did you hear the president's conversation with me?
Yes, I did.
What do you think? There was a long pause, and she said.
Friend David, the president has ordered 2 squadrons to attack you. He directed my ship to join in on the attack, which you know I will not.
Will you be able to warn me?
Yes, about 10 minutes before the attack.
Good, thank you. And we waited. Tall, hyperspace comm to the starfighters, please. Jarl and Sally replied. All communications will be by hyperspace. The Krill don't have that technology. They responded.
Aye, sir.
Sheila told me that their president has ordered 2 squadrons to attack us. She will give us a 10-minute warning. Be watchful, and use your starfighters as best as you know. Oh, and remember to hug the donkey. Barbara and Sally both laughed in.
Aye, sir.
My hyperspace comm sounded.
Friend David at 10 minutes.
Tall, tell the starfighters. We were as ready as we had ever been. I called down to the escort lab. Be ready to give me a squadron of Bradley-class ships on my command. All right, people, prepare for attack. I looked at the crewman at the helm. Steve, back away, SL-10. Weapons hot. Hank, Don, plasma cannons. Charge weapons. On my command, fire at will, Tall said.
5 minutes, Captain.
I ordered, Tall, open channels to Sheila and the starfighters.
4 minutes. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, Captain.
Kate sang out.
Battle cruisers approaching. Weapons dormant, shields down. Only 3.
The standard comm sounded.
Captain Stevens, we will not attack you. The squadrons ordered by the President refuse to engage in an illegal battle with you.
I asked, what the hell is going on here? Pilot caller answered.
The President is being held hostage by the rebels and is being forced to act as he has. We must free the President, but there are 200 rebels in the presidential residence. Hold him hostage.
Ha, I've been itching for a fight. Chief Briggs, I want 10 of your toughest security crewmen to meet me in the teleporter room. Full battle gear, rifles, sidearms, everything. George, you and your lieutenant suit up and meet me in the transporter room. Hank, you have the con. Tal asked.
Captain, may I go with you?
Suit up. Let's go. Hank started to speak. Hank, I want you here, in command. In the teleporter room, I ordered, teleport us to the highest density crowd of hostiles. We ended up in the presidential offices. As I appeared, there were shocked expressions as I fired at rebel after rebel, as did my team. As Chief Briggs and I fought back to back, I shouted, "Damn, Chief, this feels good, I haven't fought like this since I was in Vietnam." Ha ha ha. There was me, the Chief, George, and his lieutenant, 10 security crewmen, and Tal. In the presidential office, we secured the president, and I set 2 security crewmen to safeguard him. Chief, bring down another 5 of your people. I turned to the team. Now, it's time to mop up this place, shoot first, and ask questions after. Lasers on stun unless the fight is too hot, then kill. Then Sheila appeared, fully armed and battle ready. I smiled and nodded at her, and she followed me as we mopped up the presidential palace. Then, 5 more security crewmen. I gave them their instructions. Tal took the west wing, and I took the east wing. Sheila called for a team of loyal Krill sailors to begin stacking the bodies and keeping track of those still living. We had to open every closet, check behind the furniture, and check each room floor to ceiling. As we secured each room, we sealed that room by welding the door to the frame. We inspected every inch of every room and sealed every door. The palace had 3 stories, and we checked every nook and cranny on all 3 floors. Then, I cornered the palace staff, asking about places we might not know about. Then, I paraded the staff before the president, his wife, and his advisors to ensure every member of the household was who they purported to be. The members of the staff rated out 2 cooks, 3 waiters, and 1 butler. Those were taken by the Secret Service to cells in the basement. Basement, Tal, to the basement. I shouted as I ran for the basement entrance. In the basement, we found 30 rebels ready to fight. I stood, and we began hand-to-hand combat. It took me about 10 minutes to subdue the 30, Chief, that was fun. I haven't felt this good for many years. Sweaty, smiling, puffing, and swaggering, we let the Secret Service take care of the prisoners and went back upstairs. We found Sheila screaming at the president.
I'm going to put my battle cruiser down in the middle of Cunyan Island with the biggest hydrogen bomb I can find. You had better not try to stop me.
And she teleported back to her ship. My people continued to clear the Capitol, Congress, and every building in the city. I reveled in it. I felt alive and could only think about returning to my family when this was done, the conquering hero. Arriving back on our ship, I went to our cabin to be greeted by my wife and daughter. T. Vass looked at me as I walked in the door.
Oh, hi dear. You're sweaty and dirty, you had better take a shower before dinner.
To tell the truth, I was a little disappointed. After putting my life on the line, I thought, and this is all I get, take a shower? Glow brought tea rose out and gave her to me. She smiled, giggled, gurgled, and patted my face, and I fell in love again. This little person had healed my bruised ego. I set her in her playpen and went to take a shower. As I stepped out of the shower, Glow wrapped her arms around me, smiled, and whispered,
Tonight.
Now, that's what I wanted, to be treated like a conquering hero. She whispered,
Tonight, my hero, tonight.
We had dinner, and I got to hold and play with my little princess for about half an hour, then the 3 of us snuggled as T. Vass read a little golden book, The Little Engine That Could. Then we put T. Rose to bed and stood looking down on this little person we made, holding each other, Glow, she's so beautiful. Glow looked into my eyes.
David, I'm so proud of you. Is it over?
And I replied, I don't think so. She took my hand and pulled me to our bedroom.
Let's try for another baby.
Commander Davidson, Graveyard Watch Officer, called me about 0300.
Captain. There seems to be some activity on Cunian Island. Captain, for battle cruisers are headed this way.
Red alert, battle stations, notify little boy, Starfighter, and Sheila. I'm on my way. Oh, call Yellowtooth. I ordered, shields up. Weapons hot, Davidson, tunnel on the plasma cannons. No one takes any action until they take the first shot, then annihilate them. I heard Gary's voice from the sensor lab.
Their weapons are hot. Shields up, maneuvering to encompass us.
Plasma cannons a warning shot across the bow, Ginger said from the comm station.
Captain, we're being hailed.
Captain Stevens, surrender. There's no need for you to be involved in our little squabble.
I replied, I stick my nose wherever I choose. Fire once and see the power of this ship. They fired, and I ordered, fire at will, plasma cannon concentrate on the lead ship. One hyperspace TT torpedo to the second ship, I ordered. The plasma cannons took out the first ship's engines, the TT torpedo erupted amidst the ship of the second ship, and the third ship turned tail and ran. Sheila opened fire on the retreating cowards, and their ship disintegrated. I heard her voice over the comm.
That's 3.
The fourth ship headed for space.
Next time, there will be a whole lot more.
I asked, more? She replied,
They took over our Space Command headquarters. There must have been 1,000 battle cruisers on the island.
I observed, they might have a problem finding crews for those ships at the moment. They're cowards. Then I heard Sheila on the comm.
Friend David, may I come and say goodbye to you and T. Vas?
I answered, anytime, friend Sheila. But goodbye?
I'll explain when I come over. Is T. Vas awake?
She answered. Sheila teleported aboard, and we walked to our cabin. As we walked in, Sheila saw T. Vas with T. Rose, went over to them, cooed to T. Rose, and turned to me.
Are you happy, friend David, friend T. Vas?
We both replied, very happy. I invited Sheila to sit and tell us what was on her mind. She replied,
These rebels killed Carter, Kelly, your godchildren, Ben, my entire family. They will pay. I have a loyal hydrogen device on board my cruiser. I will land on the island announcing who I am, and as the rebels gather, I will detonate the bomb. I have come to say goodbye to you, my very best friends. I love you both and wish you a long, happy life.
T. Vas gasped.
Sheila, no. There must be another way.
I added, Sheila, you are such a special person in our lives. We had hoped that you would be the godmother of T. Rose. She stood up.
You want me to be her godmother?
Tears running down her face. I reached out to caress her appendage. Yes, T. Rose's godmother. Sheila asked,
Can my ship be flown remotely?
I smiled, let's rest. In the morning, I'll ask George to make your ship remotely controlled. But tell me, are there any loyal spacemen on the island? Sheila began to cry again.
My sources say that the rebels murdered everyone. They didn't want anyone left that might cause trouble.
I was seeing red as I tried to relax, only holding T. Rose helped me to calm down enough to think clearly. Looking down at my little princess, my breathing slowed, and my heart warmed. I'll talk to the president in the morning. Morning, 0800, and I called the Capitol. This is Admiral David Stevens. I would like to speak to the president, please. Moments later, I was looking at the vestige of the president. Mr. President, make this conversation encrypted from this moment. He reached off screen, ordered everyone out, and seemed to touch something else.
Admiral, no one but me can hear or see our conversation.
I looked at him. I am told that the loyal spacemen on Cunian Island have all been murdered. Is this true? He looked down.
Yes, Admiral, all of them.
I noticed what passed for a tear run down his face.
200 of my children were murdered by the rebels. And another 1,000 or so as well.
My resolve hardened. Mr. President, Negotiator Sheila has control of a battle cruiser and a low-yield nuclear device. She intends to land her ship on the island and detonate the device. We are making her ship remote controlled at this moment. With or without your permission, we are going to blow the island out of the sea. He looked up at me.
Admiral, you have my permission. Blow the blankety-blank island off the face of my world.
My face hardened. It will not be me, negotiator Sheila will push the button. By the way, Mr. President, this conversation is being recorded. So, officially, she is authorized to push the button? He replied.
Yes. She must push the button.
I replied, Mr. President, we will execute in 6 hours. He nodded and signed off. I ordered, tall, hyperspace to Naval Headquarters. Admiral John Self, eyes only. Include my conversation with the President. And transmit. 5 hours before button time, tall, ship wide, please. Now hear this, this is the captain. In 5 hours, negotiator Sheila will annihilate the Krill rebels. You will be able to see the blast through the viewports on the starboard side of the ship. The blast will be recorded for our archives. 4 hours before button time, I sat with T. Vass, Sheila, and T. Rose and spent a quiet hour loving those around us. 3 hours before button time, we received a message from Admiral Self. Dave, I understand, as long as you do not push the button yourself. 2 hours before button time, Admiral Yellowtooth, Sheila, T. Vass, T. Son, Hank, George, Tall, Jarl, Barbara, and Sally met with me to discuss the aftermath of the destruction of the island. The President joined with via video feed. Admiral Yellowtooth remarked,
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, after the bomb, planetary forces are going to have to hunt down the remaining rebels, one house at a time.
I added, we will provide assistance only if asked directly. We can use sensors, jammers, and the such, but not our crewmen. This is by our treaty, sir. 1 hour before button time, Sheila, time to land your cruiser. She smiled, a grimace we had come to know as an expression of high emotional involvement. She expertly directed the craft to the island and brought it down on the landing pad. 30 seconds to button time, Sheila began to cry, tears running down her face.
Friend David, I don't know if I can do this.
I caressed her appendage, you are the only one who can. Do you want more deaths of your people? She looked at me and shouted.
No.
And slammed her appendage down on the button, and we watched as a mushroom cloud erupted over the island. Then she broke down and howled an agonized cry. Her tears flooding down, appendages wring out her anguish. She turned and buried her head in my shoulder. T. Vass took her by the appendage, led her out to our cabin, and gave her a sedative. The President called.
We have begun our roundup. Thank you, Admiral. We shall monitor our people, but we will not violate our citizens' rights.
Mr. President, that is the best thing I have heard so far. Sheila has been sedated and will sleep about 12 hours. When she awakes, we will ask her to choose her future. Then, we will act accordingly. We request permission to remain in orbit until then. He nodded.
Permission granted.
We sent a team down to the island to assess the radiation levels, damage, and conditions and for any survivors. Radiation levels were at toxic levels and would remain so for many years. The island was wiped clean of everything, it was leveled to the entire degree. There were no survivors, nor were there any bodies. The assessment took about 7 hours and resulted in the report to the planetary president that the island would be detrimental to all life for the foreseeable future. We set up a monitoring system to warn the government of any attempt to reclaim the island, and we waited for Sheila to wake. Hour 12 after the button push, Sheila awoke. I asked her what she wanted to do for her future, and she replied,
Friend David, may I stay with you for a while? A time to recover my equilibrium and be with T. Rose. A time to heal.
I nodded and said, of course you may. T. Vass and T. Rose will love the time with you. You just decide when you want to return home. She looked sad.
Friend David, for a krill, I am old, I will never again lay an egg. This may be my last journey. But thank you and your crew for your kindness.
And she asked for her own cabin. Leaving with the purser to find her cabin to rest, brood, cry, and hopefully heal. Jarl and Barbara, T's son, and Sally had brought our 2 starfighters back to the shuttle bay and were on duty. We decided to name the USS Little Boy and the second the USS Orin. I ordered, Hank, Plot the fastest way home. Barbara, UL12, please. Button push plus 24 hours and the Constitution had bid farewell to Admiral Yellowtooth, and we departed for home. We had 2 weeks to reach Sector 00, and life continued quietly. Then, one morning, T-Vass told me,
David, Sheila has produced 2 eggs and asked me to ask you to fertilize her eggs. Will you do it?
I asked, would that be cheating? She replied,
We can do it clinically, and it would only be an experiment.
2 weeks later, we were in orbit around Earth, reporting to the Chief of Naval Operations, the entire ship's log for the 3 years we had been gone. We had been in orbit for 4 weeks, and one morning, I got a call.
Friend David, my eggs have hatched, come and see.
I left the bridge, T-Son, you have the con. And I ran to Sheila's cabin. T-Vass opened the door and ushered me in to see the hatchlings. I saw 2 krill with human coloring and hands rather than appendages. The 2, a male and a female, spoke with human voices.
Giggle gurgle boo boo haha.
I stood looking at these krill, Sheila. They are unique, and they are beautiful. You speak only krill in their presence, and I will speak only English. We'll have 2 krill English translators. T-Vass said.
Then I will speak Hephaestian.
Sheila asked.
Friend David, will you be their father?
I smiled at the little ones and answered, yes. I would be honored. T-Vass smiled and said,
David, you are going to have a handful with 3 kids to father. But I know you will be a good father to all 3.